Hello, welcome to Now Tell Us. At Now Tell Us is where we have guests come and tell us stories. They come and inspire us. They come and share a topic that is passionate to them. They come and educate us on something, and always we are having a great time. And thanks to you, our viewer, our audience, we've been having a great time with the interaction. So, as we get started, I ask you to share a comment, ask a question as we are going on. And I'm excited because this month, if you've watched any of my past episodes this month, I'm excited because we are number 3 at Podmatch. Check that out. Number 3 at Podmatch. And this is because of you. And it's because of the great guests that we are having on our show. So we appreciate you and we appreciate our guests. We are going to meet our guest today, who is known as Zachary Daniel, to tell us about tough life lessons. But before we go there, I'd like you to watch this video very closely. Take your time.
Hands where mine is. Jump. Go, get on. Go, go, go. There's another one. Look at him. Woo! Stay on him. Oh, man. Quick, he's stuck on the tire. Jump on him. You got it.
What you've just watched is someone who is wrestling with an alligator. Who can dare do that? Now, that's our guest today. So, without taking one more minute, we are going together with you, our audience, to meet this interesting man to teach us about tough life lessons. Zachary Daniel. Here we go. Hello, Zachary.
Hey, Anthony. How's it going today?
It's going on cool. I mean, Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice
Yeah.
and cold. It's nice and cold here, so we got snow. I'm in the Midwest, Wisconsin specifically, so really feels like the holidays. And I really got a kick you showing that me wrestling the gator video. That was
Who can,
certainly
who,
something.
who can dare do that? Who can dare wrestle an alligator?
Yeah, other than Steve Irwin, I don't know many, but he was, he definitely, watching Steve Irwin growing up, I always wondered, like, how on earth is he wrestling these gators? Like, how dangerous is that? And
Mhm.
so, when I did it, I really felt, that kind of thrill and adrenaline that probably fueled him throughout all those years. So, um, it was awesome. I will probably never do it again. I was scared. I don't want to swear on this podcast, but I was very scared. Um,
Okay.
and But it was exciting, and it was a thrill that kind of life is about, right? Life is about
Mhm.
some experiences and some thrill, and some people like a lot, some people like a little, but you kind of got to balance it out. So no, that was awesome little intro there, video there for the
Wow.
audience to kind of get a good sense of me as a person.
Yeah. So was it a one-time thing, or I mean, just like you put it, you never do it again. So it was once, and you said, "Okay, yeah, I'm through with this."
No, it was definitely once.
Yes.
So the person training us about how to wrestle the gators and basically kind of guiding us through that. He
Mm-hmm.
invited us back. There's an annual gator wrestling thing where they got like 15, 20 dudes, and they just try to wrestle all the gators, and whoever gets the most, is crowned, the gator champion that year. So he invited us back. It's a gator park in Colorado. I haven't gone back. I have no plans to. I got out with all my fingers, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it that way. So
Uh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. And that's one of the things that that can never be me.
yeah,
Can never.
yeah, maybe you're a little smarter than I am.
Okay, so let's go back to when you were born, and is that where you were born, in the Midwest, or how was it?
yeah, yeah. I was born in the Midwest,
Mm,
Wisconsin. Um, so my upbringing, my birth, I'm adopted. So I had a birth parent, biological mother, who put me up for adoption, and
yeah.
I was able to get into an adopted family, and it's been wonderful. I've loved my upbringing, my childhood, but that was definitely something different than most people is being adopted into a family. And my parents, my adoptive parents, are both white, so
Mm,
I'm mixed. So mixed kid going into a white family, definitely presents some different dynamics and experiences that I think have served me well through my whole life.
mhm.
But there've definitely been some challenges. There's some things that I've had to, that kind of dissect or understand, that is maybe different than, had I grown up with parents that were biologically,
Any idea?
related to me or looked like me. But
Okay. Any idea of why your mother put you for adoption?
yeah, she was really young, so she had a chaotic home life. She was extremely young, in her early teens. The father was not going to be present, and she didn't believe in abortion. So, um, she decided to put me up for adoption, which is a very selfless act. I think it's, I know people have different feelings about abortion, but to carry a child to term and kind of bond with that child, give birth to that child, it's tough on your body, it's tough emotionally, and then to give it up, I think that's a very difficult thing to do. So um, she just wasn't in a position to provide for me the life
Mm-hmm.
that she probably wanted me to live. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so she put me up for adoption, and you know, uh, everything all worked out, and I was able to. The interesting thing about my adoption was it was closed, so I didn't know her for 18 years of my life.
Okay.
Never talked to her, didn't know what she looked like, anything. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I turned 18 I was kind of able to find her and have conversations and kind of reconnect a little bit, um, over that time period. But yeah, it was an interesting process, and um, yeah, it's definitely shaped some of my personality today.
Still alive?
Yes, still alive. I actually had a surprise half brother and half sister that I didn't know about. So,
Oh.
kind of reconnecting with the family, and then also seeing things that were similar and different, like nature versus nurture. So there were some things that, you know, through my upbringing, that was my personality. That kind of helped shape who I am. But there were a couple things that were just innately from birth. And I haven't had contact with her for 18 years, but there were certain things like humor. There was a couple humor things where I meet my biological family for the first time, and they're saying the same things I would say,
Mm.
humor wise, or like the same joke, and I'm like, this is bizarre. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like a deja vu thing where it's like, you know what, there are some aspects of her personality that are biologically
Mm.
linked, and I don't know exactly how that works, the science behind that, but it was interesting to see that as I kind of reform that relationship. So um, yeah, it was I still am like 60/40, nurture versus nature. I think that your upbringing and the people around you have a very strong impact, but there is a part that's innate.
Mm. I've heard of other mixed children, and they end up being presidents. So
Hey, you never know.
yeah, you never know, and
Yeah.
that maybe means something of why you are such daring, wrestling an alligator, and you're daring many other things in life.
Yeah, it could be. I like to push the boundaries, and I felt like I had to identify or create my identity kind of early on. So
Mm-hmm.
that's helped me kind of, forming my own identity, deciding different things, or, either whether business or personal, I think has uh, helped me kind of be the person I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but some people find themselves at some point in their life, they're like, well, who do I belong to, or who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because they had one staunch thing that they were very focused on, and that was taken away from them, and then they don't feel like they have a strong sense of self, or what they're doing, or where they're going. Um, so I think that forming an early identity and having a mixture of different things, interests, gator wrestling or crypto or whatever else, is family wise has helped me, for sure.
So tell us at length, who is Zachary today? Tell us more. Tell us everything.
Yeah,
Now
that
tell us.
that's a good question. So Zachary today, from a business standpoint, or from a business standpoint, would have been someone. So I created a couple companies. One was a Bitcoin ATM company, because I've been involved in that space for a long time. Um, Currently I'm an investment advisor, so I deal with people's money and investments with that specialty in digital currencies. Um, I went to school for nuclear medicine, so that's on the healthcare field. And I practiced nuclear medicine for about 2 years until I switched to finance. So we went from crypto to nuclear medicine to finance, and finance kind of dealing with crypto. Um, so it definitely, uh, from a business perspective, that's very varied. Not many people go from healthcare to finance and business. Um, I also, started a property company with a partner. So I kind of have my hands in a lot of different baskets. I recently came out with a fiction book, which is more of the hobby perspective. It's a story that I've worked on for a long time, and really finally, there you go, on cue. I finally was able to publish it and realize one of my life's dreams, which is to bring the story to life and have people read it, and provide feedback. And uh, originally I thought the story was going to make a good movie, but can't do a movie. I had no expertise, no capital, so I decided I can write a book. Right? You don't need that much to write a book. So you know that's kind of the business and hobby sphere. From the personal side, single, no kids. Been pretty focused on, myself and friends and family, but kind of just trying to make my way in the world. Um, Learning from mistakes, and taking risks, and trying to find out where I kind of fit. It's not always easy, and it doesn't always work out. There's been plenty of times where, I've tried something new and it hasn't worked, or it's failed, or it's not turned out quite the way I want it. But that's you learn from that, and that's part of life. And I think that's a fun process. So when you watch the video early on, gator wrestling, that was a great success. I didn't lose any fingers. I was able
Mm.
to get in the swamp and wrestle a gator, and it was awesome. But there's been other things in my life that haven't panned out quite perfectly, how I thought it was going to envision. But from a personal standpoint, it's been really great. So from where I am personally, I'm just trying to make my way, do right by other people, um, and just kind of enjoy life to the best of my ability.
What's one thing that you remember that, or the first one, or the biggest one earlier on that went south? That thing that you started and went down.
Um, that's a good question. So I would say there were two things. There was one where I uh, kind of made a small investment in a friend uh, that wanted to start a small kind of merchandising business, and so I paid up front for some of the numbers made sense, but you know I really should have done more due diligence on that, and it backfired to where I basically didn't make my money back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was my first sense of, okay, I put money towards something and it, it didn't pan out at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's a lot of lessons in that, in identifying people that you can trust, um, business decisions that make sense, taking the kind of proper level of risk. Another one was with my first business, which was very successful, but I didn't start. This was the very beginning. I didn't know anything about business. I know anything about, but so the business was very successful to start, but I didn't have the foundations of it right.
Mm-hmm.
So when it grew, it kind of outgrew those foundations, and it kind of exposed that this was unsustainable, and that wasn't gonna it wasn't able to continue, even though the numbers were doing well and it made sense. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
what I built it on was shaky, and so once it got big enough, then it kind of ceased to work. Um, so I would say that was also an important lesson. So when you're building a business, you have to start with a strong foundation, and that's true of most anything in your life. If you're going to build a strong relationship, you got to start on a strong foundation, and you have to be right. And if you're going to, um, do anything, accomplish anything of worth, you have to start from a strong position. So,
Wow. Is that an interesting thing that you say there? That I can start a business, it becomes very successful, and it topples down because of being successful because it doesn't have a good foundation. Interesting.
yeah, yeah, and that was with the ATM business. So the ATM business with Bitcoin ATMs, it was successful in that we were getting a lot of business, but it was difficult because uh, dealing with banks and cash and Bitcoin, I didn't have a strong base and regulatory kind of procedure to where it made it difficult for banks to work with us. So
Mm-hmm.
once we got to a certain size and we're doing certain volumes of money, banks were like, nah, 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 nah. We don't want to deal with that. Maybe you guys are legitimate, but we can't trust that. We don't want to take the risk.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think if I had done a better job at the beginning of kind of creating a good framework, it would have been banks would have been more receptive to working with us. And at the end of the day, that was our limitation, was banking. So it sounds kind of crazy. It's like, well, as long as you bring money to the bank, it shouldn't matter. It should be easy to deposit money.
That's what I imagine.
That's what you imagine, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you, in practice, banks hate money. Banks hate cash. They hate it. It's a liability. It's a risk. It's a liability. They don't make
Mm-hmm.
much money out. So banks in general hate cash. Businesses, especially, I mean, involving crypto. Uh,
Okay.
so it depends on your industry, but
Yeah, and you talk about crypto. In the recent past, I've been hearing some interesting stories about crypto. I am a bit, I've kind of dipped my feet in crypto, but not seriously gone deep. So the stories I've been hearing, I haven't paid much attention to. So you can tell us a bit more about it. What is it with crypto? What's
yeah,
happening?
yeah, yeah. It's been a crazy year, and crypto is always crazy. And I think something that most people, when they're kind of getting into the space or thinking about it, is crypto is a very broad sense.
Mm-hmm.
It encompasses a lot of things. One person saying crypto might mean they're thinking about Bitcoin. Another person saying crypto might think they're talking about, NFTs or pictures of rocks or bored apes or whatever. Um, and another person might think of like an exchange like Coinbase or FTX that collapsed. So I think it's important to distinguish the different areas of crypto. I think there's Bitcoin in general, and then there's kind of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think when people first get involved with it, it's mostly the flashy things like the Dogecoin, or I'm going to make 10,000% in a day, or I'm going to leverage trade, or I'm going to buy this NFT and it's going to be so awesome. And I think people get distracted by the shiny, very big shiny stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the Bitcoin and crypto space, the crypto space in general, is going to go to zero. So it's not a good investment.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of have to caveat what I say, because I am a registered investment advisor, that you shouldn't go and trade off my advice or anything like that. But most of the crypto space has been proven to be worth nothing. A lot of projects are going to go to zero. A lot of tokens aren't going to stay around. Some of that is due to fraud. Some of that is due to it being a new technology, and maybe a team is trying to do a good thing, but it just doesn't have the talent or the adoption or the market for it. So, people can get caught up a lot in crypto. The important thing is there's Bitcoin and there's kind of everything else. So I think Bitcoin is the base layer as a technology is on par with the internet or the printing press or internal combustion engine as far as the kind of achievements that it does from a technological standpoint. So when people are thinking about, the way I like to do an analogy would be, imagine if someone in the 90s or 80s said, hey, you can kind of get exposure, buy a piece of the internet. Most people today would be like, oh, of course, if I could buy the actual internet itself. And now I would think of the rest of crypto as companies. So like the Apples, the Googles, the Microsofts that go on top of the internet. That's kind of Bitcoin versus crypto. So you saw that the internet stayed, from the 90s to the 2000s, and it's become a greater aspect of our lives as the technology develops and it kind of gets more integrated. But companies come and go, right? And so unless you're really in tune with the space and you're willing to take a large amount of risk, it's better that you start with Bitcoin as far as learning about it and maybe getting some exposure to it, dealing with a couple transactions and understanding that before you kind of wade into other stuff, because although those things might return a significant portion, odds are you're going to get very burned, due to a bunch of different reasons. And that's what we're seeing now, is a lot of crypto collapse, and it's happened before. It will probably happen again, but I think it hurts more this time because it was more integrated into most people's lives, right? A lot of Americans had funds on FTX or Celsius or Voyager, and it wasn't just speculative nerds on the internet anymore. It was some people put their retirements in it. Some people who didn't know what they were buying, or had trust in a exchange or institution that failed. And I think that's been a much larger scale this time. So I think it is a little different, and it hurts a little bit more. Going to probably set the space back a little bit more. But I would just encourage people. It is likely that Bitcoin and crypto are not going to go away. So it's at least worth learning about.
That's good. And thank you for sharing that. I've witnessed many people who go into something just because it's the hype of the day. So
yeah,
it is important, as you put it, before you go into something, you have more information about it. And that's something I talk about in my book, Achieve Your Dream. The first thing and most important thing for you to have in going whatever it is, for whatever it is that you want to go after, is to have the right information. Don't just go there because it's the hype.
Yeah, no, that's exactly true. And it's hard to get the right information. If I read most mainstream articles about Bitcoin or crypto in general, they're riddled with false things, or they misunderstand things, or they just don't understand. And maybe some of it's from, I'm like, this is almost malicious, to they just don't know. So it is tough to find good information about the space. Just like it was hard to find good information reliably about the internet and the internet companies, until it just takes time. So it's tough to find good information. It's tough to find good people to trust. So even people that are exploring, it's tough.
What would you advise someone to, or in what way would you advise someone to go after the information that is going to be legit, that is going to be worthwhile going after?
Yeah, you got to start with anyone that's advertising very hard for new projects, really advertising for new projects, or as a large platform where you think they might get paid, right there, just new projects. No, you probably
No.
shouldn't be listening or trusting those people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you should look for someone who's been in the space for at least one big cycle of uptrend and downtrend,
Mm-hmm.
because when it's your first time, it, it you don't recognize a lot of the signs that end up, hurting you down the road. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to get caught up, just like anything. It's very easy to get caught up in the emotion and the rush, and maybe prices are going up and people are going crazy. Um, you want to try to look at someone who's been through it once at least, to be like, okay, what was it like last time? What did you feel? Um, and can kind of assess the space a little better. And then someone who, is a little bit objective. Um, it's kind of hard to, because it is hard to speculate on an emerging technology, right? Anyone that's at, with an emerging technology, they think it's going to be very massive down the road, a lot bigger than it is today. So inherently, that's going to be a little biased.
Okay.
But you have to find someone that's a little bit realistic with uh, what the future might bring, and well, someone who's willing to get their points challenged, right? Um, it's not easy to find, but I would say, yeah, anyone that's trying to push any new project
Mm-hmm.
immediately, that's a big warning sign. And then anyone that's new to Bitcoin or crypto, that's another big warning sign. So if you're watching or listening to an influencer or something, and you can't go back 5 years and see what they were posting 5 years ago and see how they were talking about things then,
Mm-hmm.
that's something to. And
Okay.
sorry, I'll do a quick shout. We'll go to the next question. But if someone was looking for a book that I think is a good starting point to, I think the Bitcoin Standard. Um, of course, I'll recommend my own book for fiction, but for nonfiction, the Bitcoin Standard by Safadine. I forget his name, but anyway, we'll go on to the next question.
Okay.
I can ramble about crypto and Bitcoin all day. So,
Okay. Tell us a bit more about other tough life lessons that you'd like us to hear in this episode. One, two, three, or maybe, yeah.
yeah. I think publishing the book was a life lesson.
Mm-hmm.
When you're really passionate about something and it's like it's your creative thing, there's this. It's kind of like your baby, and you don't want anyone to say anything bad about your kid. Um, so I think getting constructive feedback. Now, for me, it was a lesson I expected, but getting constructive feedback on something that you really care about and you've worked really hard on can be a hard life lesson for a lot of people, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people see the end product, and they see an end product that's really good
Mm-hmm.
or really awesome, and they don't understand that the only way to get something good or great is there has to be a lot of failure, or a lot of people have to tell you, dude, people have to tell you this sucks. Like, go back and rewrite this, or try again, or read more, or study more. That's the only way you can get the end product to be like, wow, people are, and so I think that was a hard life lesson, is when going through the book, is everyone wants to think that they can be good at something, but the only way to get good at it is by having other people tell you that it's not good, right?
Wow.
No one, Michael Jordan didn't become Michael Jordan, and I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jordan writing
Yeah.
sphere at all, but everyone looks at Michael Jordan now. It's like, oh, he was amazing. And the only way he got that way was so many people telling him, you suck. You need to work on your jump shot. You need to be a better condition, whatever. Um, and then him making the adjustments and him learning from that. So, I think that's a hard life lesson for a lot of people, is they see the end product and they don't understand that to get something good takes a bit. And then I would say, a hard life lesson would be, life is not always about trying to be happy. So um, today we have a lot of culture of, well, give it to me now, or I'll just, I want to experience the best or have pleasure immediately, right? Instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not all what life is supposed to be, but it's what's popular, and it's generally what's pushed in the media. Um, some of it is for consumerism, and some of it is just to keep people distracted, and it makes people happy, and what sells. And I think this applies to everything from business to life to relationships. Um, it's a hard life lesson that life isn't always about being happy. There's mostly you should strive for a level of contentment, because if you strive for a level of a certain happiness, you're probably going to try to take shortcuts to that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe instead of it can be from anything from, you might take shortcuts in business to try to get rich quick, and you might hurt other people in the pursuit of that because it makes you happy in the short term, but you're sacrificing your integrity, you're sacrificing your long-term relationships, you're sacrificing your morality. You might try to take the shortcut in relationships, by being possibly overly promiscuous, and trying to seek immediate gratification in lieu of a long-term healthy relationship that can foster a good family. You might take it in entertainment or pleasure. You might go out and be excessive with your partying or substance use, instead of kind of and there's places for that. You don't have to be you don't have to go in the other extreme, but in place of being satisfied with yourself and your own time and your own hobbies, right? If you're going out and you're trying to find happiness in short term bursts, maybe you're kind of masking an underlying unhappiness in who you are as a person, or what you're being with yourself or something. So I think that's another hard lesson, that you don't always have to be striving for absolute happiness. You can just be content.
Okay, and that's good. Now, going back to your previous point, talking about the feedback that you get, which is not always, yeah, you're doing the best. And you mentioned about you putting together your book and the feedback that you got. You reminded me of me when I was doing my first book, and because I'm a graphic artist, so I did the cover for myself, and then I had to present it to someone who's been there for years, done plenty of books, and is a big name there. But I was in contact with him, and then I tell him, okay, this is how I want my book to look like, and he looks at it and tells me, hey, Anthony, you don't put a full stop on the cover. This is not a sentence. This is a subtitle. I thought there should be a full stop when I am saying
Yeah.
something there. No, no. This is a cover. So don't expect that anything that you present out there is going to be received at the first instance positively. You've got to expect some negative feedback, and if it's only for your good, then take it.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
put yeah.
Exactly. Take it. And yeah, most people, if they're going to give you constructive feedback, it's probably in your best interest. If someone you care about or trust, you got to be careful sometimes, but yeah, no, it's absolutely, yeah, with your book, you got your feedback and you're like, no, you, you probably improved it after that. So
Yeah.
I think people also, you want people around you that are going to tell you privately that you could do something better, because it's way better than you getting to that point later and publicly everyone realizes it, and you kind of feel left out to dry.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone around you, at least when you first present something, is like, yeah, and then you release it in the public and it just gets, panned by everyone who's possibly read, and it's like, man, you feel like a little bit of like a fool, like, well, why weren't these people looking out for my and some of it is they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Mm,
Again, some of that short term, you don't want to hurt their feelings, but in the long term, it's good for them. So I think
mm,
surrounding another life lesson, surrounding yourself with people that are going to criticize you, even if it's possibly meanly,
mm,
where you think it's mean. I think that's important because otherwise you can get in the situation where everyone just is a yes man, and that's you see that a lot in celebrities or
yeah.
powerful politicians or people that they get a bunch of yes people around them, and then they do or say something or release something. It's like you know, it just
We've
isn't
seen
good.
it. We've seen it. We've seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, in a few sentences, can you please tell us what is your book about?
So it is a fiction mystery thriller, very character driven. Takes place in the 90s on the East Coast, and I would say it's about a few things. One is an underlying murder mystery. So
Mm-hmm,
the main character had his father murdered when he was a teenager. His father was everything, his idol, his mentor, who he wanted to be, and that trauma carried with him through his adult years. Fast forward to the present, he deals with that in an unhealthy way, and I don't want to say it's a sort of vigilante. Um, eh, Sort of vigilante. I don't want to like make it all like to be a Dexter or something, but he deals with that trauma in unhealthy ways. And his best friend, who is a police officer, wants to bring him some closure and solace. So he decides to reopen that murder investigation of his dad to try to bring some closure. So the main character can move on from his anger and his grief. And so a lot of the book is the main character dealing with his demons and kind of exercising them in unhealthy ways, and then also kind of moving on from who he thought his dad was, holding on to the past, the anger and grief, because that kind of puts a limit on your future, right? If your only lens is anger and grief, and you're not going to experience life properly or in a good way. So he's reconnecting with family, he's moving on from that, but the investigation as it progresses kind of what he thought he wanted most, which is solving the murder, um, that answer kind of ends up catching up with him. So he's put together his life, and now he's confronted with all of his past, and that kind of comes to a head, towards the end. But it's a character journey, um, and yeah, it's I put a lot into it, and so more carefully someone reads the book, I think the more they're going to get out of it.
wow. Okay, so that's the book, Manifest Destiny by Zachary Daniel. You can get it, or we talk about getting it at the end of the
Yeah,
show. And talking about the end of the show, we are almost over with the episode.
it's gone
And
by fast.
yeah, very fast actually. But before we close the episode, we would like to know how can people connect with you?
Yeah, people can connect with me through my website, Zachary, Zachary dash
Mm-hmm.
Daniel.com. So on there, you should be able to find an email. You can email me or learn more about the book, links to where to order it, which is, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the major retailers. Uh, you can also connect with me at, if you type in Digital Edge Wealth Management, that is my investment practice, or on Twitter, uh, TikTok One Book Pony, Twitter, uh, Zach Daniel. But yeah, you can connect with me that way. But probably the easiest through the website.
Okay, that's good. So once again, that's www.zachary-daniel.com. Go and connect with Zachary and get some lessons on how to wrestle with an alligator.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I got all the technique for you for if you want to do it in the wild.
Yes. And now, before we go, again, can we hear a few words that we should always remember? Maybe you've said them, maybe you've not said them. Would like to see. the words that we should always remember and hear from you. Go ahead.
Yeah, life is short, so I would say for most people, you just got to take advantage of your time. So I think people tend to think that time moves very fast, and I think time only moves very fast when you aren't doing new things. So the more new things that you can experience, and you know different things that you can experience, time slows down in a way that you can experience a lot more than you think. So, go out and do different things. And if time has been seeming like it's just moving way, way too fast, that'll help slow it down. So,
Hey there, go and do something new.
yeah.
Hands where mine is. Jump. Go get on. Go, go, go. There's another one. Look out. Woo! Stay on him. Oh, man. Quick, he's stuck on the tire. Jump on him. You got it.
Yes, yes,
A
yes. This
perfect outro.
this has been Zachary Daniel. I've been your host, Anthony Moirore. So, together with Zachary, until next time, we're saying bye for now.
Ciao.
Cheers.